Well, we've got something up there on the screen there blocking out your three co-hosts. I think what we should do is we should probably leave these four guys up there for the whole show, and just talk behind them, guys. What do you reckon? Does it sound like a plan? Because
it's called hiding behind the whiteboard, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh no, we'll get rid of them.
We'll
get rid of them.
Andrew, I think we should do this. We should go.
Oh, here we go. Don't flag us.
Flagged.
Yeah, flagged. Good to see you guys.
Better not be flagged for playing A, a G, and a D chord, Brad.
Yeah. TikTok, guys, it's time to rock. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys here on the Sunday show. We've got a bit of a treat for you guys. We're not doing any rankings. I think it's the first time in a long time that the Sunday show, the Beebs TV boys have got together, and we've just had a bit of a chit-chat about a topic. And the greatest topic over the last 4 or 5 days, if you're into music, any kind of music, has to be the Beatles. And what an event we've had, gentlemen. 3 wonderful programs. I'm gushing, I'm giddy, I'm just over the moon. I've rediscovered a passion for this band, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the Rock Professor and Brad has to say about this. So I'm going to palm it on to the Rock Professor and just ask him quickly, what's your thoughts, Rock Professor, on the 3
what we've
programs you've seen?
Yeah. Long, aren't they? It's that's what I call deep diving, in depth. I think that's been, it's been a fascinating thing, really, isn't it? To observe close up on lots of different levels. I think the first level is the way they interact as a band. Then it's with the way that that they interact as a creative process going on, and you can see, you see the creative process, don't you? Particularly with doing Get Back, where it starts off and it's just him banging his bass on more or less a kind of rhythm thing. I think there's the interaction with the outside world, the other people on the program, who would like the people who are filming it. That people, then there's Glyn Johns around, recording it and stuff. So there's that going on, and then there's the sort of you get also the kind of impinging of the outside world coming in and stuff. When friends, family, and other people turn up, kind of thing, to watch and to sit around in the studio. So I think it's been an extraordinary, and I think as we all know, it's kind of redressing the history that was made by the previous film, which only came out very briefly, and which I think came out 18 months after this. They'd already split up. Nobody really cared about it, and I think it kind of it suffered from that, really, more than anything else. But I think it's been really interesting to get those in-depth conversations, to get the in-depth look at the process of them writing a song, trying to get back to looking at their history. One of the things that amazed me is how many songs do they know? It's just unbelievable to me, the amount of songs that they know. They're cracking up musical songs, rock and roll.
Just hold on for a second, mate. Have we got a admin here that can ban someone that's direct selling, please? Someone here that's an admin.
I'll jump in, Andrew.
Yeah.
Just give me 2 secs. I'll get on that now. Where are we? 2 seconds. Keep going, Simon. Keep going.
I've done it. It's all right, Brad.
Okay.
I've got them.
All right. Cheers.
I've hidden them from the channel.
Yeah. Sorry
about that,
for
guys.
interrupting you. Yeah, we don't want that shit there. So so you've enjoyed it,
No.
Simon. That's really good. I look forward to you talking about some of the key things. What about you, Brad? How have you managed to settle down? Because we all know that the backdoor man is a Beatles nut. Him and we're going to probably have a fight about who's going to be the biggest Beatles nut, and I suppose Simon's going to jump in and king hit both of us because because we all want to claim to be Beatles nuts around here.
I was there. No, I wasn't.
Look, Andrew and Simon, this has been something that I didn't expect. Obviously, I knew it was coming, but obviously from a young kid being into the Beatles and, you know, what I understood of the album Let It Be, this has just been amazing for me to be able to sit back and watch the writing processes. And I'm not going to give an analysis right now, but I'm overwhelmed. I feel like there's just so much there. And there's moments that we'll talk about, obviously, that I got goosebumps, I got emotional, the whole bit. It was it's been an experience. We're talking about
you said the Hobbit then.
we're talking about over 2 hour, episodes each one, and there's 3 of them. So we're like, was it 2, 4, 6, 7 odd hours of Beatles brilliance and it's the highs, the lows, the everything, which I'm not going to get into right this second, but what a joy it's been. And I'll say one thing, I haven't sat on my butt and watched TV for a very long time. So I realized what it's actually like to sit and relax and watch a show for a change. It's like it's been an enjoyable experience all around for me.
Look, I've got to agree with you. I've got to agree with you, bro.
Fallen in love with the Beatles again, more than I ever have. Let It Be, the album, which basically what Get Back is based around, that recording of that album. For me, it's always been like Abbey Road. The Let It Be was in there, but it was always like there was that stigma behind it. But now it's put a whole new perspective on that record for me.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I'm going to look forward to the Rock Professor and you talking about that, because as I pass it, I'm going to just make a little quick statement here and pass it on to Simon. But throw out your Beatles books. I've got a shitload of Beatles books here. throw them all out, because what was written about the Beatles, and especially around this time, and Brad, you've hit the nail on the head. It has clouded my personal judgment about the band during this period and this album that I've never had, obviously. And again, Simon, we mentioned this, didn't we, guys, a couple of years ago or a year ago? We hoped that this wouldn't revise Beatles history. In fact, what it's done, it's given us probably the most accurate presentation of what these guys were doing during that period. Simon, what do you think?
I know completely. I mean, I think it does revise the history, but in a really good way. I think it makes it much more nuanced. I think it makes it much more, the way that it actually happened, and the way that those things often happen, that is always a much more nuanced and seems to have been reported in the past, or has been a bit two-dimensional and a bit received wisdom, which isn't really like that, I don't think. I think that there's lots of, we get to see a much more rounded portrayal of all their characters and the way they work and things, and I think that it's, I spend my life dealing with teams, and it's really interesting to see a team of people, creative people, do something, and the way that they all work and the way they take on roles, that are, sort of traditional roles kind of things, somebody, and it's really interesting, for example, that, that Paul is the one who's kind of pushing it along, he's like the de facto leader, if you like. saying, let's do this, you know, and kind of, and that's really interesting. But, you know, and that's in a really good way, because somebody has to do that in bands. You know, I'm sure, you know, guys, you've all been in bands, and, you know, some people are more laid back and some people are more, you know, and I think that's fine. I've said this on here before. I've spent a lot of years in a band, you know, covers band, doing sort of, you know, wedding gigs and kind of party stuff and things, you know, and that was because, you know, you had to get behind what Ian, the lead guitarist and the lead singer, you know, it was kind of his vision of the band, and we all had to get behind it, you know, because that's what he wanted to do. Now he was the main singer. It's, you know, which I was fine with. I think that's absolutely fine. You know, so he set the direction, the vision for the band, and we all got behind that. And then, you know, and then if you didn't want to do that, then you had to leave and do something else, you know, and that's fine. But so it's been really interesting, and really, you know, I think that really good to see that, you know, that much more. 8.5 hours, you do get a nuanced look at you know, how that inner workings worked, and, you know, what went on, you know, I think, which is really good.
Awesome. So Brad, were there any myth busting moments in particular for you that struck you that you want to share with us over those 3 programs?
Well, the first one was obviously the way the bands were a unit, even though they're obviously very strong 4 individual egos. Ringo was the most submissive, well, not submissive, but the most humble and prepared to just do whatever was needed to be done. I did notice that George was obviously, you know, and I don't know are we going to have spoiler alerts on here or not? Like, for anyone that's watched it. Yeah, because there might be a few
spoiler alert. They're going to be spoilers.
And like, I spoke to Simon Hosford a bit earlier today, and he goes, "I can't watch it because I can't watch your episode today because I don't want it to ruin the experience of watching it first." So Hosford's not going to join us in the chat for that
Get
reason.
on with it, Hosford. Blimey.
Yeah, but for me, you know, where George at the end of part 1, that was an eye-opening thing for me to watch the band talk and discuss about what they were going to do forward, and then they united and said they needed their brother back part of the band. So regardless of what my point is, the fact that they were all very strong personalities and they were all sort of bumping heads a little bit, they were still in love with each other like brothers, that they wanted to still unite. A lot of the way that it was portrayed through history is that it was the demise of the band and they didn't get along. Well, I saw them get along a lot more than they didn't get along, if that makes sense. There was frustration, but they all got along, and especially in part 3, that you know, in part 2 you see the magic happening in part 3, and I don't know if we're going to delve into it and deep dive right now, but, you know, obviously when they went away from Tickenham, is it how you pronounce it?
Twickenham.
When they went away from that and they found a smaller location, that was where it sort of all started falling into place for the band. I think that other location was too big, too spacious. It wasn't a homely environment for them. And I think John says in the 3rd part, he feels like he's at home when he's in that little studio. So
yeah. What's funny about that, Brad, is they got that huge sound stage, haven't they? And they're all in the middle. You know, they're all like round the drum kit. They all sit around the drum kit, you know, facing in, you know, in this tiny little space. You know, that I think real bands, that's how they work. They get really close together, you know, and they all face the drummer, you know, and that's how it works. And they only need a little amount of space, because that's all how it works. So in that big open cavernous kind of soundstage, you know, they haven't set up a stage or anything like that. They're just in around, you know, like I do so often in band. You know, I can remember just set up in a circle, you know, and play, you know, but you sit in a circle face in, and play. You know, you have a couple of put the PA speakers wherever, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're all looking at each other, and you're all, you know, that eye contact and that what's going on is the really important bit. And I think that you're right. Getting in the small studio in Savile Row really
that didn't happen
really
though.
contributes to that.
That didn't happen though for quite a while. If you guys, what was remarkable for me is that Paul walks in and John walks in, and there's a big distance between them. And obviously, we all know the reason why, because of where the management of the Beatles was going, etc. So they come in on episode 1. And you know, John's sitting over here and he's not talking. They're not even including John in any of the discussions. Paul's talking about it, but you'll see during the course, as Brad said, during the course, even episode 1, they slowly come closer together. They're slowly coming closer together. And then, you know, you can see that Paul is trying to talk to John by giving him this opportunity to do a solo. But there was one point that I found really, really interesting. And, you know, we're all pop psychologists, aren't we? We're all pop psychologists. And I thought it was quite interesting where George said to Paul, he goes, "You got a lovely beard. Your beard's wonderful." And then says to him, "I think I've got some songs that I'd like to present, you know, that I'm thinking of presenting that just, you know, it's just me and my guitar and stuff like that, you know. What do you think?" And I thought, that's exactly what you do when you want something. You go and give someone a compliment and then ask the question. So, you know, just lots of little bits and pieces right through those 3 films, guys, that for me just caught me and captivated me. Simon, so at the end of the day, they're just guys, aren't they?
I saw the mutual respect with the bands, like John and Paul obviously respected each other as songwriters. They don't try and step on each other's toes in the moving forward process. They try and allow each other to, you know, whatever their idea is, to express it. And then they might say, "Oh, I think like we should go like this," and then they would try it that way instead of just going, "No, it's not going to happen." They would actually give it a chance. And I that was something that I thought was an important part of it, that you could see the brotherhood there, mutual respect. They're all big egos, especially John and Paul, you know, big egos. And the interesting thing that to me was the discussion they had that was picked up from the microphone in the pot plant, which I'm not sure we're going to delve into all that stuff at the moment, but there was a discussion there, it was a real eye-opener for me, and it really highlighted to me that John and Paul were the leaders. There was no disputing that after that conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And before we continue with our analysis and some comments, I think the Rock Professor is going to take an opportunity to acknowledge everybody that's in the chat watching our stream.
Yeah. We'll say good morning to, well, we're up the top. Nelson, of course. Nelson, good morning, Nelson. John, morning, John. And Ellen and Luca Ferrara. Good morning, Luca. Yes. Teresa, hope you're getting better, Teresa. Hope you feel better and recovering from your car crash. That would be cool. Who else have we got? Helena O'Hara. Good morning, Helena. How are you? Hope you're good.
Thank you, Helena.
Will Varela. Morning, Will. Crappy Luxury. Morning, Crappy. And I think that's probably everybody looking right now who's commented. So welcome, one and all. Hope we're all good. Hope we all had good weeks.
Awesome, guys. So we're streaming on, obviously, our YouTube channel. We're streaming on our Twitter account too, which is associated with us. And we're streaming on our Facebook group as well. And on the bottom there, if you guys haven't already subscribed to our Instagram accounts, on the bottom there, you'll see them. Brad Cook Music, Easy Peasy Japanesey, Simon Williams 33. You can't miss out on subscribing to the Rock Professor's Instagram account. Give him some confidence-boosting comments there. Get him Instagramming.
The world's most useless Instagrammer.
No, he's doing really. He's doing really, really well. Brad, you've got a couple of shout-outs, and before we kick off, You've got something too, I think, that you were teasing the Rock Professor and I about in the green room. So I think you need to tease everybody else in the chat too, brother. So,
all right. So I forget. All right. Okay. Yep.
I'm going to present you, brother, and then the show's yours for
a couple
of minutes.
So the background is I went to a bookstore and I wanted to buy the Get Back book, and I couldn't get it, but I ran into this at the front of the store.
Magnificent.
Paul McCartney's lyrics. It's a box set. It's all Paul McCartney's lyrics. So it's got some amazing stuff in here. And, you know, I've got so much book material and not enough time to read it all, so I'll get through it eventually. But, you know, I just had a quick look at it, and there's like handwritten lyrics in here and everything. It's just amazing. I'm really diving into this. There's some brilliant pictures. They're alphabetical ordered. So, you know, there's a day in the life, like song lyrics that he was contributed to. They're all in here. And there's obviously, from the way I'm looking at it, there's like a backstory in there about the song maybe and stuff like that. I haven't had a chance because I've just spent the last 8 hours or whatever watching
every waking hour.
So that in itself, there's 2 books in there, and it's in a lovely box set. Smells amazing.
Good.
An an LP sniffer and a book sniffer.
Yeah.
Right? So this is going straight to the pool room. If anyone's seen The Castle, good straight to the pool room. And anyone that knows me knows I'm a massive Doors fan, and so I managed to get this as well. So
cool.
I'm really looking forward to this.
Good reviews for that. Good reviews.
So I'm going to be reading this at some point over Christmas or whatever. Got myself a lot of reading to do, and I tell you what, I'm excited, but I don't know where I'm going to find the time to do it, but I'll do it. I'll get through it.
It's easy. You only need 4 hours sleep.
Well, I only get 4 hours sleep, mate, so I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Oh,
I've got to cut. Also
it's already down to 4 hours. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We got that the other day too. So plus I've got another book that was given to me that I've got to read as well. So I'm like, damn, I'm going to be stuck down head nose, into the books. So so that's really cool, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I think, Andrew, you got that Get Back book, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got it there, brother, and it's fantastic. Yeah, look, I'm like you guys. I'm just completely infatuated, fallen in love with the Beatles. I can't wait to. I've ordered the Let It Be album. I can't wait. I'm listening to it, Simon and the Rock Professor and Brad, with new ears. I did some work this morning, and I was just listening to it again. And we talk about it when we talk about ranking the tracks, don't we? We go back and we negotiate an album. I have to tell you, Simon, I've listened to this album completely different because I can see the visuals behind it. I'm picturing in my mind's eye the band recording these songs. And there's something else too that they ripped us off with on the story. They ripped us off. They recorded that album live. And because we're guitar players, we love that.
Yeah, well,
it is one of the things, isn't it?
I've actually read somewhere, and I don't know if anyone can confirm this or not, but I believe there's going to be another release of Get Back down the track for the people to purchase, and there'll be extra footage. And I'm assuming there might be like a TV style documentary moving forward that cuts out a lot of all the
couple of hours
stuff that the fans like us want to see, but the people that don't want to see all the, the mucking around and everything like that. So, the
we
stuff
might
in
have
the
to do a separate Beatles show, guys. If that's true, Bad, we're going to have to do a Beatles show.
Yeah, well, we can do it, mate. Maybe we just ditch 5150 and do Beatles show. I love Van Halen. I'm joking, guys. I'm joking.
I know. We do joke around here, guys. Don't believe anything we say.
We can call it, we can call it the Beatles Electric Blues Show instead of the British Electric Blues Show. It's just the same, But also, shouts out before I forget, because I don't want to get too heavily into it and forget. Shouts out to our good friend Warren. Wishing you all the best and all the warm prayers and thoughts are heading your way. And, we look forward to, hearing from you and hoping you're okay, mate. And we look forward to, hopefully we can get you on the show at some point, mate. So stay in there. Our prayers are with you. And happy birthday, Jimi Hendrix. 79 today he would have been.
Wow.
79.
Oh, and he gets a mention.
Amazing.
He gets a mention too, doesn't he, in the in episode 1?
So is Clapton.
Half a dozen times in episode 1.
Yes.
Mm.
There's an interesting thing about that, isn't there? It's interesting about Clapton. Yeah. Harrison on Clapton.
Well, tell us, Rock Professor. Give us your analysis or your theory on the clip, because I've got one and I'm sure Brad's got one too. So come on.
Don't know if I've got a theory, but the interesting part is that Harrison says about Clapton is, I'm not Eric. Eric's the great improviser. He can improvise. I'm not the great improviser. I need to work it out and understand what I'm going to play, which is completely, completely true. But I think, worth saying. It's quite funny.
Yeah. Well, for me, when they bring up the Clapton thing, obviously Harrison is a big fan of Clapton at that particular point, especially obviously a big influence to Harrison. And moving forward, we know the story there and everything like that, the relationship they had and the friendship and the crossover of things and stuff moving forward, which we won't delve into in this episode. But the one thing about when the calm way that Harrison conducts himself, even when he's frustrated, that I was amazed at the way he just went, okay, guys, I'm thinking I'm leaving the band now, and gets up and walks away. And then the discussions go round and round and round what they're going to do. And there's a suggestion of bringing in Eric Clapton from Lennon, brings that up. I will get Clapton in. But towards the end of that episode, obviously you see them huddle and they're all hugging and talking about it. And they make the pact to go and try and get George back. So the Clapton thing, obviously they brought him in for the White Album stuff, for that one song. Obviously, and I know there's other recordings of Clapton jamming with the Beatles as well. I don't know whether that footage or material has ever come out, but yeah. So obviously, they all admired Clapton for his ability, So there was that's a big thing for this channel, because we're a big Clapton channel too. We love Clapton here, so it was an interesting thing to hear that in the first episode. I was like, wow, man, this is going to be an interesting ride here. So yeah.
Look, I agree with you, and I thought the reference to him a few times was compelling and very interesting, because obviously, even the Beatles are talking about this guy, Eric Clapton, as opposed to a band like the Rolling Stones or something like that, and Rock Professor, it's very revealing too, the thing about, how he can understand, and he's saying, this improviser, as opposed to, this structured guitar player, which clearly he's trying to break away from, because he's under the influence by Clapton. But it was really, really cool. Really cool, though, when they're talking about how, 1 week after they drop Sgt. Pepper, they go and watch Hendrix, and he's playing, and someone yells out, "Oh, you're out of tune." And and Jimmy goes, "Eric, you want to tune my guitar?" and Paul McCartney's telling the story, and Eric apparently goes. So even back then, they were laughing about this perceived rivalry between Clapton and Hendrix. I thought that was interesting, guys.
100%. Well, I have to say, like watching these, I know we said it at the header of this, but watching these, like, there's so much there to watch and absorb and take in. It's almost like I need to go and break it up into smaller sections and watch it
Yeah.
again
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
Obviously the marathon, it came out. What day was it? Thursday. It came out, the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of free time on the Thursday, so I had to break it up into 2 sections by watching it in hour slots. And I had to backtrack a bit, like to go back to catch wind of where I was at. And then the next day you're watching that, and then today I watched the other, this episode 3. I was like, man, this has been a marathon session of like I don't normally sit in front of the TV that long, so it was like so much to take in is what I'm getting at this point. And I know, for example, we're going to have a lot to talk about with these episodes moving forward. 100%.
Oh, look, I agree with you guys. And where's the rock professor? Oh, he's back. That's good. Look, I think it's revealing. It's compelling. It's compelling watching these guys and the closeness that they had together. It's. I want to ask you guys. I've got another question, and I'm going to fire it to the rock professor and go down to you, Brad. So, but I'm going to answer it. My question. I completely throw out also all the theories about Yoko Ono and her intrusive influence into the Beatles, because I did not pick that up at all, gentlemen, when I watched that. Clearly, we're not in the room or the studios or whatever, but we're getting very, very good bird's eye positions, aren't we? And it didn't seem, I don't think, this is my opinion, to worry the other Beatles that she was there. Simon?
No, I completely agree. I absolutely picked that up. Clearly they're a new couple, and therefore, But what interested me a lot about that was, one, that she didn't interfere at all. There was certainly in the first one, no real dialogue at all from her. Very little. So clearly, on film, there's not. She's just sitting there, and quite often she's reading a newspaper. At one point, she goes out and gets that Beatles book, doesn't she? The manuscript, the music of the Beatles, to look at. And then at one point, she's knitting, I think, or doing something, isn't she? There's at one point, I think, in the first one, she's actually doing. So you're right. I think she's a very kind of blank presence in that, and not interfering at all. And I didn't, I didn't feel. And of course, the other thing that I noticed was how often, so Linda turns up quite a lot, doesn't she? Olivia turns up, and then they've got Heather turns up one day, and's running around to, there's other people there. It's not just the four of them and Yoko. It's sort of, in this room. It's not as isolated as that, and it's not. No, and I agree with you. And it doesn't seem to affect in any way, shape, or form the way that Paul and John work. I think it was interesting, as you said earlier, that in the first one, John is quite kind of, he seems a bit off, doesn't he? He's a bit kind of not really engaged and not really. But when they get to Savile, he gets much more engaged with Paul, and they get into that working thing together that clearly they had all the way through the Beatles. And yes, Yoko doesn't interfere with that at all. There's no, there's no barrier to that communication seemingly at all by her. And by the same token, when Linda's there quite a lot, same going the other way, really. So no, I think that's one of the interesting things, that it kind of debunks that theory, doesn't it, or that view of Yoko Ono, that somehow, in this particular setting, she didn't seem to affect the way they worked at all, which I think is good, really.
You got an opinion, bro, on that at all?
Well, she didn't seem to interfere with like my interpretation of what I've read and things like that, was that she was interfering a lot and things like that. The only thing I can say that 4 guys that are trying to be creative and work, that would be a bit of a distraction. Having someone just sit there, maybe that would be something that would that I can only see would be something that Paul mentions that a little bit in the second episode. He mentions a little bit there about it, how if John had a decision to make over the Beatles or Yoko, he'd pick the Beatles to go. So he'd stick with Yoko. So that was something that was a little bit maybe in Paul's, he felt a little bit uncomfortable with that, but they seem to be a little bit more comfortable with that.
Bro, I'm going to jump in quickly, and I think that's Paul acknowledging the fact that she was here to stay. So for the band to continue, that was something that Paul made in his own mind. I don't know. Yeah. That's my.
No, I agree. Yeah. I agree 100%. But what I'm getting at is, I think for him to bring it up was obviously something that would have been in his psyche or thinking about it. And
good point.
So I think for him to bring that up, he was obviously, it was like, we just have to make peace with it and move forward. Like, if we're going to make this. My biggest thing, and I'll go away from the Yoko thing, was the other people interfering, which was something that I thought was more of an annoyance for the band, because it couldn't keep them focused, because they needed a more of a schedule and to get focused on what they were trying to do. But everyone kept coming to them about the show and where they're going to do it and this and that. Like, I know they had to be part of that, but the writing process was happening. All that stuff was being presented to them. So maybe it was just that would, for me, that would be more of a distraction. What I'm trying to say.
Yes, Michael Lindsay Hogg and Versa were saying, got any ideas for the end? What is the end? When are we going to do the show? And there's that's about going to North Africa, isn't there, and stuff like that. And what interested me about that was that even the day before, when they were going to the rooftop, they were still umming and ahhing about it, weren't they? Paul was like, I don't know. So so I agree with you. I think that that's much, there's a lot more going on there, isn't there, than and I think that Yoko is very much a benign, she's there to support John, and that's what she's doing. But just by being her presence there, and not, she's not getting into the creative process or getting in the way of it.
I've got something to ask you guys.
Sorry, bro. Yep.
No, I was going to ask you guys about their writing process in the past. They were younger guys. They had more time up their sleeve, other than all they did was focus on playing gigs, writing songs, recording albums. They'd do 2 albums a year almost in the early days. They were pumping out stuff. They had a manager, Brian Epstein, who was probably steering the ship quite, making them stay focused on the job. What did you guys think of the fact that they didn't really have, like Paul McCartney brings up, like a dad to run the band, so to speak, anymore? They didn't have the father figure like Epstein was obviously the driving force in the way of keeping them on track. Do you think that might have slowed the process down? Because they seem to be, in my opinion, throughout the 3 episodes, which was wonderful to watch, but they weren't as focused on the job as what they could have been, in my observation of the 3 episodes.
Simon, I think that's true. I think that that the first thing that struck me about that was that they called him Mr. Epstein. Do you notice that? He wasn't never referred to as Brian, I don't think. He was when they referred to him as Mr. Epstein.
Because he was a bit of from my understanding, he was a bit of a, keep them on the straight and narrow and keep them in line, making like a bit of a whip cracker, keeping them, on the job, so to speak. What are your thoughts, Andrew? Oh, sorry, Simon.
No, I was going to say that one of the things that I did in doing one of the side bits I did was to research. I mean, just run through the previous year what they did, and I think you're right about. I think one of the things that we can get into a bit more is that they clearly felt as though they needed a manager, didn't they? They needed somebody, because Neil Aspinall and Derek Taylor and they were there, but they needed a manager. I think they felt they needed a manager. I think, which is why that thing with Alan Klein was turning up, and things, and Paul wanted Linda Eastman's father to do it and things. So. But I went back because it's like in the previous year they went to in February '68. So go back a year. They went to the Maharishi Yogi's retreat in Rishikesh. So I spent 3 months there. In May, they went to New York for the public unveiling of Apple Core. Late May to mid-October, they recorded the White Album. So the album's still at #1 at Christmas. And then January they start doing Let It Be. It's like, and they did a double album with the White Album. They've done all these other stuff, and it's like no, start next album. And I feel, and that's without a manager to keep them. So I think that amount of work and that amount of stuff they did is amazing, really. And that that when I did get the feeling that that creativity that was just coming out from the the snippets of songs and the bits, the things that all sorts of stuff was going on. So I was just amazed when I went back and looked at the previous year how much they'd done. And as I say, most bands, if your album's at #1, and you're not touring, you've got to have a bloody holiday, don't you? No, we're going to get 1st of January back in the bloody, or 5th of January back in the studio. Get on with it. Here's a film. Here's another massive project to do. It's no wonder they look tired.
They had a vision though, which was different to the White Album. They wanted to record as a band.
Yeah.
The White Album was very much like little solo projects, as we know. So obviously, moving forward, we're going to do a little deep dive into the White Album at some point, guys. But we'll leave it to that. The White Album. But for obviously the session for Let It Be was they wanted to be a little band again, little unit. They wanted to collaborate. So
yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that, Andrew? Do you think that they maybe lacked a bit of focus and direction in the studio, regardless of what they managed to achieve?
I think Simon's hit the nail on the head. And before I answer that, bro, I just want to do a quick shout out. We've got Robot Master Switch in the chat joining us, and Keith Campbell, regulars to our channel. G'day, guys. Thank you for joining us. Very, very good question, and I'm glad you asked it. And Simon's kind of answered it with the Klein thing versus the Eastman thing. Clearly, they wanted some kind of father figure there to come through. But what's really, really interesting, and I don't know if the film caught it though, but George Martin's presence in the studio, as a person, I think must have had some kind of effect on the band. There's a couple of conversations where he goes up to the guys and he's talking to them. So we just can't underestimate Brad, can we? His role in being the father figure. It's really, really, really cool. I'm. If you guys haven't seen McCartney 321, it's on Disney Plus. Rick Rubin's going through it, but I'm just going to give you a bit of an example of how important Martin was for the Beatles that I didn't know. So when they were scoring some of the songs on Revolver, look at all the love, Eleanor Rigby. So George Martin orchestrated all those and told the Beatles what key to sing the background harmonies in. So they're all standing there going, yes, sir, basically, yes, yes. And he's doing all that for them. So I think Brad, his role in the band is, well, we know that how important it is, but I'm trying to pick that up in connection with the film. But I think that was revealing. It's and thanks for bringing it up. That maybe it was a cry for help for people around. Come and help us.
Yeah,
I think one of the things I point out that as we go through these, the three programs, that when they're in the Twickenham studio in the sound studio, George Martin is not really that evident, is he? He's not really around. There's no kind of recording equipment. They don't have a console. They don't have a tape machine, and everything. And as when they get to Savile Row and they set up in the studio in Savile Row, then he's about, isn't he? He's all about, he's on it. Now I think that's as they get towards actual recording and actual doing the stuff, that's when he comes, he starts to become much more of a presence. Whereas in the sound studio, when they're just kind of, that's a bit more filmic, if you like, that he's not so involved in that.
Well, who gets so we're jumping the gun a bit, but that's okay. We're all over the place, so that's fine. So who organises the recording desk for Savile Row? Because the 72 track recording desk that Magic Alex put in was a piece of shit. So they had to get something, didn't they?
Yeah, smoke and mirrors, Alex. Yes,
it was buzzing or had fizz or or something. Brad, something.
Was it an 8-track? It was an 8-track and it had 8 speakers.
I think you brought up a really valid point. They had and I was quite interested at how involved George Harrison was in all that, because he brought his 8-track studio in, and so he was obviously, and without too much of a spoiler alert, in the third one he alludes to John what he's going to do moving forward. If you guys know what I'm talking about there, George Harrison says, shall I say it? I don't want to spoil it for people.
No, spoil it, bro. We're talking about
it. He talks to John when they go back to listen to a playback. John's sitting there on the floor or something like that, and George goes to him, I think I'm going to do my own album because I've got enough songs to, for my quota, I've got enough songs for the next 10 years and I need to get them out.
Yes.
In other words, he's saying, I've got 10 years worth of Beatles songs and I've got so many songs I need to do my own album because my quota is already there for the next 10 years in the Beatles. So that was something quite interesting. And I did notice John was making a really valid point of trying to get to George's songs a lot. I noticed that in the third episode. He wanted to work on George's songs a lot because he wanted to include him into it.
Awesome. Hey, Nelson. Hey, Will. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Morning, Johnny Bean. How are you doing? Good.
Yeah. But so I mean, I don't know if you guys heard that or picked up on that, but that was something. I mean, and we've done All Things Must Pass, and that made me think about that album and how beautiful that album is. And obviously, even back there, they're working on All Things Must Pass back in 68, 69 sort of thing. They're working on those songs that ended up becoming like George's biggest hits of all time, So it's quite interesting to see they're working on some material that ends up on obviously Abbey Road. So it's a very, very integral documentary. There's probably I will say it like this, for the non-Beatles fan or someone who's not heavily into the geeky side of songwriting and seeing how they collaborate and all that stuff, they could probably do like an edit documentary of like a 2-hour one with all the highlights in it, I reckon. But for me, I wanted to see all that stuff. I wanted to see all the bits in between them mucking around, and it actually alluded to the fact that they got along really well in the studio. They weren't against each other and weren't trying to break up. They knew that they were at the end of their career. They knew that. They mentioned it a few times, but as the Beatles.
Well, look, I agree with you. Bro. And I think it's one of those interesting things, some of these great Beatles songs, we see them being born and carried through the 3 programs. For example, Get Back, we can see on the first episode, McCartney's playing his bass and he's singing it, and it was called Commonwealth, and talking about the political situation that was happening in the UK at the time with Enoch Powell and all that. And then all of a sudden we see it at the end of the third episode on the rooftop concert in all its glory. It's just, I always loved that song, Simon. Always loved it, but I'm just blown away by it.
Yeah. The fact they could improvise up in fact, they could improvise up a sort of protest version of it, kind of thing, off, completely off the cuff. Is fantastic, and seeing that is amazing. Absolutely. I mean, I think there is a big thing, isn't there, about George and him feeling like he can't elbow his way into getting much. There's a couple of, isn't there, when he's doing I, me, mine, and they're not being very interested in it, really, are they? And he says at one point, I don't give a. I'm gonna put it in me musical, which is a very George thing to say, is that so I think.
One other little observation that I want to share with you guys too: the lack of swear words that the guy, there's a couple of F-bombs, but jeepers, if you consider, what the average musician is doing these days on a YouTube program or something, record, they're very, very good, aren't they? They're very good.
I think they were.
We've had more F-bombs on this show from you.
Yeah, well, I think they were very aware of the cameras a lot of the time. They'd get comfortable at times and forget, but I still think they're on their best behavior a little bit, if that makes sense. They were mucking around and doing things for the camera as well, I reckon. They were doing, but they were having fun. Just dismisses all the rumors and everything that I thought about that album, Let It Be, was like torturous exercise for them, that they actually got along really well.
Correct.
Did you guys notice, and this is something I want to bring up, the second episode, they're writing songs, they go into the new studio, they're trying to get it together, they're talking about, if I play the keyboards, there's one guitar less, who's going to do that? Like, they were talking like that, and then when Billy Preston made a surprise appearance and dropped in, and he started playing on the song, I got goosebumps, and I just immediately I got emotional. I was like, wow, this is the magic. And you see the look on their faces as soon as Billy starts playing, Billy Preston, as soon as he starts playing that electric organ, it just brings the song together. What I think it was Don't Let Me Down, or what, I can't remember what song it was that I was working on at the time. And it instantly just was, wow. What did you guys think of that? Did you pick that up?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that him arriving kind of coalesces things, don't they, in a way, in an artistic way. There's a bit more focus, and he brings some energy and some lightness and all sorts of things to the studio. A kind of almost as a sort of diversion that from the four of them. Being just the four of them, and then is the five, and then there's somebody, and they got somebody to, I don't know, they kind of got somebody to impress in a way, I think that actually there's somebody that would like, Billy Preston, he's really good and he's played with tremendous people, and look what he can do. Better sharpen up the act a bit and kind of stop mucking about and get focused and organized. And I think that he brings that as a musician. Clearly he's an upbeat, cheerful guy, isn't he? He's smiling all the time. I'm absolutely loving it. Oh, I love the fact that they just say, "Do you fancy sitting in? Oh, do you fancy staying for a few weeks?" It's like kidnapping. It's like
Andrew,
what laughed at. It's kind of like you just turn up and go, "Yeah, man, yeah, I could stay. I could stick around for a couple of weeks. Yeah, no worries."
What are your thoughts, Andrew? Like, did you think that when Billy came into the room and started playing, what were your thoughts there?
Oh, look, I have to agree with you guys, and so what's really, really interesting is that. Again, there's a lot of theories out there from so-called Beatles experts as to why he was involved in the first place, but most of them agree that George brought him in, because he was listening. He was listening. He could see what was happening with his other bandmates. So he said, look, we need to have someone playing keyboards because, we need some bass there. And, again, Paul playing the keyboards, and then John playing the 6-string Fender 6 bass, and we'll go through and show some of those instruments later on because they need to have a bass going on. So, yeah. And again, Brad, I'm glad that you mentioned the keyboards because all four of those Beatles could play the piano. So much so So much so that I've ordered a Casio.
Yeah.
That I've ordered a Casio keyboard today that I'm going to pick up because I've
ordered a grand piano.
No, not a grand piano, just a Casio. The cheapest chips. And I was talking to Helene on Instagram, who's in the chat with us, and she's a piano teacher. So you know, we've all got a bit of chord theory and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to go with me. But Brad, I'm just on fire by it because he's just sitting there and he's playing that Fender Rhodes. Just it's just magical. I think him coming in, I hate to say it, was the cream on the cake.
Well, as soon as he started playing, they all sat up and looked at each other and just looked at him a little bit. So they sat up and they actually played. They got into what they were doing. It became like, right, now we need to lift our game, because I think for people who don't play an instrument, I'll explain it for you. The minute you start performing with someone who's better than you or more accomplished and has a natural ability, it lifts your playing. You try to sort of exceed what you normally would do to try and lift it. And I just saw instantly that the four members of the Beatles just rose the bar. They went, come on, fellas, we need to get up here now. But
pay attention.
They were kind of dragging their heels a lot before that, trying to get through the songs. And then Billy came in, filled the gaps, and he was kind of like, almost in a sense, the nucleus to make the band sound how it was supposed to sound for that recording, 100%.
Because they talked about it, haven't they? They talked about maybe, and they didn't talk about getting him, but they talked about Nicky Hopkins, didn't they, and stuff. And
yes, they did.
You know,
yes,
they did, didn't they? Yeah. I wondered if you know, if they'd actually, they didn't. I don't think they actually said maybe we should get Nicky Hopkins, but clearly, you know, they were saying we need to get a keyboard player because we need to get somebody to play the piano because, you know, and then. You know, fortunately, you know, Billy Preston turns up and gets inveigled into it.
Well, I think Billy was obviously a fan, but something tells me, you know, he didn't just rock up out of the blue. I don't think he just rocked up out of the blue. I think he might have been quietly invited.
No, that's true. I'm sure he was good. Well, because they knew each other from Hamburg, didn't they? Because he used to play with Little Richard in Hamburg, and that's how they knew each other. So yeah, it seemed to be. It's the sort of thing, as you say, Andrew. I didn't pick up how he got invited, but you said George invited him.
Well, that's what I knew from the past.
Apparently,
that's what I knew from the past.
Right.
But it's not. Nothing's allude. They just allude to it in the movie that he just rocked up to say hello.
Yeah.
But
that's right. Yeah.
Like songs like "Get Back" and "Don't Let Me Down," they just all of a sudden became songs with that keyboard element from Billy.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as he started playing, the song fell into one piece instead of it being bits, because the songs were still in pieces like a jigsaw puzzle, and they couldn't quite get them to fit. And then Billy came in and just filled those little gaps to make them all fit, if that makes sense. That was, as soon as they started playing with Billy, I got goosebumps. I started to get emotional. I was like, oh my God, this is magic. Like that chemistry thing was perfect. Yeah.
It's like camera coming
cool
into focus, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, smiling, big smile, just full of life and full of energy, and you know, Look. I think you guys are right. I think he was the cream on the cake. He was certainly that key that the other Beatles needed to get them. Brad, I think you're right. Motivated to push on. Because at the end of the day, guys, Rock Professor, at the end of the days, they did a shitload of songs in that 1 month period, didn't they? You know, they did pretty good. You know, and then having to deal with George's leaving, and but I just want to rewind a little bit, and I think Brad's point about George leaving and having the teapot microphone in the cafeteria to pick up the conversation between Paul and John made it very clear, you know, that they actually needed that conversation. It was almost like it was scripted. I'm going to leave so that these two can talk. because that's the impression I got. It just gave them this ability to say, well, look, this band's important for us at the moment, so let's go and get them. Great stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. The whole thing with I'll go back to that point I made of when George did leave. He just got up as, I think I'm going to leave the band, and walks out, and they go, what now? He's like, yeah, that's it. And he just walks out.
See you in the clubs. See you around the clubs, he says.
He just walked out, and they obviously, the brotherhood came into it. They've been together so long. They were together when George was like 14. So there was.
Can I just ask you guys something? So leading up to seeing this movie, they always made a big deal about George making this thing. I'll play whatever you want to play. They made a big deal about that segment for 30 years. But if you have a look at the conversation leading, he's not getting angry with Paul. He's actually having a conversation because Paul's saying to him, look, I want you to, so he wasn't getting angry. He was saying, but I'll play anything you want to play. Tell me. Yeah, he was actually being quite cool about it.
He was being more of a team player with that conversation, is what I picked up then. But that's funny. Isn't it funny how they even highlight in the episodes what the press are writing about him, and how. So that's one thing, is like, obviously
we don't like the press, do we, guys?
And the way that for 30 years we've assumed that conversation. I won't play if you don't want to, but I'll play whatever you want, whatever it is that you want me to do, that pleases you, I'll do it. But like you said, that was taken out of context. It was one little snippet. So that for 30 odd years, we've thought George was having a go at Paul, but it's not. He's just like being a team player. So you listen to the whole conversation, and I'll just read you something,
Andrew. Let me just read you this, because this is Peter Jackson, right? Talking about. He says, I understand George almost more than I understand the other Beatles, says Jackson, because he's very much like a New Zealand male. He's pragmatic. There's not one iota of George that gets swept up in a romantic notion of doing this or that, or the excitement of it all. He's just, how are we going to do this? That's not going to work. That's a stupid idea. And his reasoning is good. You want to have that kind of guy in your group. I mean, my favourite thing is when they're talking about getting the ocean liner, and that P&O will give them one for free. And he says, we can't even get Fender to give us a free amp.
Yeah.
But does that chime with you, Andrew? Do you understand what Peter Jackson's talking about?
Yeah, well, I think so. I think it's that pragmatism that Australians indeed and New Zealanders have. We call a spade a spade. And you can ruffle a few feathers with that kind of attitude. But at the end of the day, there's no grey areas, and I think that's the great thing about George, is that he made it very clear, where he was coming from. But that whole story with George is fascinating. And I was going to ask you guys something else.
Can I just butt in just for a second, Andrew? Sorry. Sure. There's a new guy called PP Burns in the chat saying, "Is this the English Johnny Bean show?" Not exactly, PP. we're alumni of Mr. Bean.
Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification button. And check us out. We're on weekly. We also do a couple of other things as well. And check out our playlists, PP. We're very happy to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something I mentioned in last Sunday.
Sorry, Brad. Okay, I remembered what I was going to say. Hold on, because Rock Professor, do you want to tell us what the press said? Because Brad mentioned the press in his presentation. So do you want to tell us what the press was saying in '69? It was a pretty bad thing what that guy reported. Do you want to tell everyone?
Spoiler? Was that thing about George being in France and beating up a photographer or something, or smashing his equipment?
and the Beatles having a fight at Twickenham.
That's right. And the Beatles coming to blows at Twickenham and all of that. And they go, really? And then they start. Then John and they were having this sort of mock fight, weren't they? Just sort of laughing about it.
Yeah.
The thing. Yeah. Yes, astonishingly, in the Daily Mail, the whole thing is made up. I can hardly believe I'm saying those words. And tabloid press is tabloid press, isn't it?
Any press, any news is good news. For a band, whether it's bad press or good press, it's advertising, isn't it? And I guess bad press to them, they would just shrug it off because they were probably used to it by that point, So,
sorry for interrupting you, bro. Sorry. I just want to, yeah. Just bloody the press, cheapers.
Yeah. Hey, listen, the funny thing about technology, like back in the days when they recorded and did these episodes, and when they were filming it, the technology back then, they had like one microphone over the top right, and it was picking up. And so basically, there's one point when they come over and go, "Can you turn your bass down, Paul?" and things like that because it's muffling. What I want to do is touch back on what I mentioned last Sunday, is how Peter Jackson is talking about how they managed to, with modern technology, pick out, say, John's voice, Paul's voice, George's voice, Ringo's voice,
and
separate them like a track, so that there's points in the thing where they're trying to cover up what they're talking about, and they might have been strumming or something to cover what they were talking about because they didn't want it to be picked up by the microphone. But you can hear it now quite clearly because the modern technology, what they've done is they've separated every single piece of noise in that thing, whether it's a kick drum, a guitar, a bass, a keyboards, whatever, which wasn't possible back in those days. So fast forward, what is it, 50 years or I can't remember, 60 years, about 50 years, and technology's caught up. So basically technology's made it what we're hearing, the dialogues, you wouldn't have heard that 20 years ago. You wouldn't have heard it 10 years ago.
No.
So, as much as technology is frustrating to me, and sometimes I think it can be, a bad thing for musicians, and it can be a good thing for musicians and whatnot. But in this context, we wouldn't have had a lot of these conversations that they're having up front like they were, because they were covered by noise, so you'd be hardly hearing what they're
deliberately
saying.
Didn't they? Seemed to be a deliberate thing when they play. Somebody would play while the others were having or something.
Especially George was not happy about having the cameras around, so like he didn't. That was one of the triggers for him to leave, was because he didn't want to do the film stuff. He just wanted to record and wanted to do that, and so he that's a really valid point. And I think over the time, there's probably, 60 hours of footage that Peter Jackson went through. We haven't seen the last of this. Like, this is like 3 episodes for Disney Plus. I think we're going to see more stuff moving forward over the years of
all 60 hours of it.
Yeah, there'll be you'll see just like a documentary come out, an hour and a half of just the highlights, maybe. You'll see one of just the songwriting process. I'm sure there'll be all different stuff that'll come out moving forward. 100%. Almost guarantee it.
That's weird.
I can't wait. What's weird, brother? What's weird?
Have you? You've just got really much louder in my headphones. It's like somebody flicked a switch.
I'm very sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's good. Brilliant. I've been wondering, Fraser, why the last 3 shows have been so quiet in my, even using wired headphones. It's still, and then all of a sudden it's like somebody's flicked a switch. Not you guys, of course, but that's cool. That's all right.
Hey guys, has our quality audio gotten better for you guys instantly over the last 30 seconds? Let us know in the chat, because we're here to make sure that you can hear us. Look, I agree with you, Brad. I think there's going to be clearly a marketing situation from these 3 programs. Clearly, we're going to see that. We've started it with a book. They'll probably, obviously, Simon come out with some Blu-rays or some DVDs, if they still make them. They might make them available for downloading. Yeah, I can't wait. I think if they're going to repackage some of the stuff for Beatles fans, and if it brings in, Brad, some Zoomers into understanding some good music, I'm for it.
Yeah. Well, the technology's caught up, is what I'm saying. So we're, in this instance, I'm grateful that technology's caught up, and we can hear what's going on. We can hear those little key comments, the things that we probably wouldn't have heard probably 20 years ago.
No, and the footage is remarkable, isn't it? It's just remarkable. When you go back and look at some of that shitty footage that we've seen over the years on YouTube, grainy and horrible, you can see the mats and John Lennon's hair, because he just gets up, obviously, has a cup of tea, has a ciggy, jumps in the cab and goes to the studio, and and you can see he's got pillow hair. It's like, wow.
Remarkable amount of smoking, isn't there?
Oh my Lord. I felt like running down to the dairy buying a packet of ciggies so I could just sit there and remember what it was like.
Oh,
they did smoke a lot.
I did. It's just a sign
unfortunately,
of the times,
I was a fag hag, yeah.
No mobile phones and cigarettes everywhere. Just amazing.
I noticed the brands. So they were smoking Kent for all you people out there, Dunhill, right. And Rothmans.
Okay. Rothmans, yeah, 20 Rothmans, blimey. I don't know whether any of those cigarette makes exist anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't have a clue because I've never smoked in my life. So,
well done, Brad.
Yeah.
I smoked a long time ago. I gave up longer ago than Brad's been alive.
Good man.
Guys, do you want me to share the screen here of it's an article from Guitar Player that had some interesting guitars. So there's a couple of things, obviously. So it's just the guitars. Next week when we talk about this and, share a bit more information, I'll have some information because I got the Beatles gear book and we'll have some information on the drums and some of the other gear that they used as well. But is this a good time to go through that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Okay, hold on. I'm just getting rid of some clown that wants to sell some crap.
Are they back again? Oh, I thought I got rid of them.
Yep, they're gone. All gone.
Good. That's a good thing for the channel. We're getting some good algorithms, apparently. I watched a YouTube show last week, guys, where some guys are saying that when you get spam in your live chat, don't freak out. Don't freak out. You're climbing the steps. You're climbing the steps, they reckon.
Yes.
Yeah. Climbing the steps.
Hold on. I'll get rid of these comments. Hello, John. John ZD 351. Hold on. Add to the stream. Can you guys see that?
We can. Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'll pull that over here. And so this is obviously... So if you notice on the first part of episode 1, see this Hofner bass here, that pickup there by the bridge, and you've got the neck pickup. If you have a look at the first part of it, you'll see that it's a different Hofner bass that Paul's using. The second pickup is over here, a little bit closer to the neck, but that gets stolen. So Paul has to revert back to this particular bass, and I didn't pick that up until a couple of days ago. So
what it was stolen during the filming?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Was it? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I didn't pick up on that at all. No.
So,
because you're right. One of them's the one he uses one with a white pick card, doesn't he? And binding or something, or
it's got a set list on the horn of the heel where it goes into the body.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the set list. Yeah, that was cool, wasn't it? Yeah.
I love that guitar. Yeah.
So,
although
guys,
interesting. Remember they're in the studio in Savile Row, and as it Glyn John says, "Have you got another bass, Paul?" That's not sounding very good. He's got another one, so he has to get his Ricky out, doesn't he? His Rickenbacker.
Well, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because we were going to talk about that when we got to the bass, but we'll talk about it now. So two comments are made about the bass. One by George saying the Rickenbacker sounds better, and Glyn talking about it as well. But Paul said, no, I like this because it's lighter. So it's got nothing to do with the fact that it may be inferior when it comes to sound. It's because and Brad and Simon, as guitar players, something feeling good is just as good or important as something sounding good.
100%. It's got to feel like it's part of you, I think, when you're playing.
But this is the album, guys, that we I'm going to stick my hand up and say kind of ditched for a long, long time. I didn't give it the respect. I didn't worship at the Beatles' altar to this album. I asked the Beatles gods to forgive me, and I'm going to make up for this time. So I don't spend any more time in Beatles purgatory. I'm going to worship at the Let It Be altar.
Yeah. Good. I've actually got a new opinion of the album as well, Andrew.
So this is just the famous black and white still of the rooftop gig, which is just remarkable in that third episode, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
There's some text there. So this is the guitar that Brad said that he loved. All solid rosewood, Indian rosewood.
That's a take.
Is it Indian or I can't remember. What does it say here, guys?
I just saw it before when he moved it. It was prototype rosewood Telecaster made for Harrison, delivered during the Let It Be sessions. The guitar was created under master builder Roger Ross Measle, is it? Can't read that. Who had previously worked on so that it was a custom rosewood guitar, all rosewood from my understanding.
I can't remember whether it was Indian. Is it Indian or Brazil? Anyway, we'll probably get that information. But what's really interesting is that they had to buy it back from the Bramlett estate for how much?
Can
you read that?
$400,000 at the bottom. $434,000.
So it says there, don't move it, Andrew. It says there the guitar was the rosewood telly had a thin piece of maple sandwiched between the solid rosewood top and back, over which urethane was applied, sanded, and hand rubbed with a fine cloth to achieve a satin finish. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot that. And I did read the article, but jeepers, I'm glad that you guys are here to make sure that. And there it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lovely guitar, and I know the custom shop did a small run of them from memory.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? Did a tribute one.
Yeah. So he didn't steal the guitar, did he? It was given to him by George.
I think so.
Yeah. And also, what's Simon will probably know this, that Dove that they play, that that Gibson Dove that they play, he gave that to Bob Dylan, and that's on Nashville Skyline.
All right.
Yeah, that's right.
I love the tone of that telly on "Don't Let Me Down" the way he's playing on that telly. It sounds phenomenal. And Get Back, the intro, it's got that nasally telly thing going on, and this guitar as well. I love this one. Obviously,
so if you notice during the film, it doesn't have the red, the white ring, doesn't it?
I noticed that. The first thing I noticed, Andrew, was that because I've always seen this guitar with that on there.
Yeah.
Switch. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it poker? No, poker.
Lucy.
Chip. 57.
That was
it's interesting, isn't it? How little kit they actually used, wasn't it? I mean, Harrison used what, 2 guitars, this one and the Rosewood Telly,
and he had his the Strat as well. What was the Strat called?
We did have a Strat. Yeah,
Rocky. That's it.
Rocky. That's right.
Rocky
yeah.
there as well.
It didn't use that very much, though, did he? Seemed to be mainly.
No. So that Red Lucy was a gold top, 57 gold top, and it was a gift from Clapton.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Clapton gave it to him to Harrison in the White Album sessions, from my understanding. Because I think Clapton played While My Guitar Gently Weeps solo on that guitar, didn't he?
Yep. And Brad is a student or a disciple of fuzz, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, like there's like a minimal sort of effect on there, and it does have a fuzz here and there, but I just thought the tones on this record are very much guitar and amplifiers a lot of the time, with Leslie speaker effects.
Fenders,
and stuff like that.
Yeah. Interesting, is it? Yeah, guitar straight into Fender amps kind of thing, aren't they? Pretty much.
That's a lovely guitar.
This article has the amps too, so we can talk about the amps. So that's obviously, this is the casino that he had. They both had casinos. George had a casino with the Bixby on it, and this is John's one. What's interesting, though, is that John's one is at the 16th fret. It's the neck joint's at the 16th, so it's about not at the 19th, which is what they normally were. So John liked that because it was a little bit shorter, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it was a short scale one, was it?
Shorter scale, yeah.
And obviously, and so obviously you guys are going to give us a bit of a rundown on what happened to the look, there it is there, and what happened there.
One thing I noticed, Andrew, before I forget, is that in the third episode I noticed that the neck pickup volume is a different knob. Like he must have lost it and they just put a black one on it.
Correct. So I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because the reproductions, the Revolution model that came out is period correct, with the black knob. But so they went through, didn't they, Simon and Brad, there where they were going through that hippie thing there of trying to get the wood back to a natural state. So they got a lot of their guitars sanded back, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lovely guitar.
Take the paint.
That's a lovely guitar. It sounds really great, that guitar. I mean, George playing, Lennon playing Get Back on it and everything sounds fantastic.
And that's the guitar he used mostly, wasn't it? I can't think of him using a different guitar.
It's his favourite guitar.
Is he?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting to me. In those days, didn't have racks of guitars, did you? Nope. Just the one will do.
So, what do you guys think about both John and George playing this? They did a pretty good job, didn't they?
Yeah, well, they're musical. I mean, they're very musically minded people. So they just picked up on it when it was delivered. They just sort of, obviously it was in an open tuning and they're using the slide, and they just, okay, so that's E, that's D, that's, so they're working out. They did really well. I mean, you watch them play it, and they're fumbling, getting their head around it. But once they got their head around it, they were fine with it.
Well, John's pretty cool. He says, one goes to the amp and one goes to the foot switch or something like that. And we bought the cheap one because if he's any good at it, we'll go and get him the expensive one.
You gave me.
That's the classic.
That was funny, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's the classic thing that if you get good, I'll
say
get
to
you
their
a better
kids. Yeah. Absolutely, yes. It was lovely, wasn't it? That is.
And Simon, do you want to read that? Can you read that?
Bob's
Can you see
J200.
that?
Yeah, Harrison bought his Gibson J200 on a trip to the US, presumably in '68. Guitar had a traditional sunburst finish, gold-plated tunematic bridge, Grover tuners. Harrison had the guitar in his studio during Let It Be sessions, where Lennon frequently played it, rather than his own Gibson or stripped Martin D28. This appears to be the guitar Lennon has used to perform Two of Us in the original Let It Be film. And Harrison gave the J200 to Bob Dylan, who played it at the Isle of Wight Festival in August '69, which they all attended, or Lennon, Harrison, and Ringo Starr attended. And it's the guitar he's holding on the cover of Nashville Skyline. There we are. His Bobness.
The old Hofner.
And there it is.
Yeah. There it is there. And there's the lyrics. Sorry, the set list from the 67 tour.
But without the pick guard, that one.
Well, it's a different bass. So the 61 Hofner saw him through the band's early days. In '63 was blah, 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 which was used, and the pickups provided the main, does it say here? In the roots rock spirit of the Let It Be session, Paul returned to the Hofner using the 61 model at Twickenham and reverting to the 63 model when the other one was stolen sometime after filming wrapped at the studio. Yeah, but the research I've done since, it was nicked at the studio.
Right. Yes, the one with the white pick guard was nicked. Yeah. Interesting. Andrew, just go back to that other previous picture. Sorry, I just scroll. Can you zoom in on picture of Paul? Is it upside down?
So he's got the basement sticker on there.
So he got that. Yeah, basement sticker on. Yeah. Cool. Sorry, that's why I want to know what it was. I spotted it, but didn't know what it was.
No problem. This instrument was really popular, wasn't it, for a lot of bands in the '60s?
Yeah.
Fender 6. That's right. Yeah. Well, at one point, Leonard's going, "It's so quiet, I can't hear what I'm playing, so I'll have to guess."
Yeah.
Have you ever played one of those? I don't think I've ever seen one, not in the flesh.
No, I've never seen one.
I didn't recognise it.
Didn't see one in the flesh at all. Never seen one.
No. So is it actually a bass, but with 6 strings, or is it like a baritone guitar?
Well, they call it a bass. So Fleetwood Mac used it. Led Zeppelin used it too, didn't they? A version of something like that, didn't they, Brad, on some of their albums? I think.
Yeah. I think it was more of a, it suits a guitar player. That's the kind of 6-string bass it is, because the gauge of the strings and that isn't what a 6-string bass is. A real 6-string or 5-string bass, or even a 4-string bass. So the low E strings are a lot thicker, I think, than what's on that.
And there's the Fender.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Sorry, Simon.
Yes. No, keep going. Sorry, I'm good.
Yeah, the old Fenders, the twin reverbs.
85 watts of loudness.
They got great sounds out of them, though. I think that from my ears, I like that tone. The tones they got, thought was really, really good. I mean, they weren't playing too loud. Like the reality is, most players that use Fender Twins, they crank them to get a tone out of them. So these guys weren't playing them ridiculously loud.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's the interesting thing, wasn't it? Yeah, they're clearly in the studio not playing them that loudly, yet still got a really cool tone out of them.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating, guys. Excuse me, and thank you for allowing me to flick through. I'll get some picks for next week on some of the other stuff for us to talk about. We'll be probably a little bit structured for next week's show because I think we're just a little bit giddy. But I'm looking at the time, an hour 30. I think might be a good time, guys, for us to so we don't go into the habit of repeating ourselves. I think it might be a good time for us to do some final shout outs, guys. What do you reckon?
Sounds great. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. And we can do some more next week. That would be fine.
Awesome. I'm just going to say thank you, obviously, to you guys for joining us. My co-hosts, especially. I'm always privileged to be here with the Rock Professor and Brad. I look forward to. I'm going to go back and watch the series again. My best advice to anybody who's in the chat who hasn't subscribed to Disney Plus, pay the monthly sub and go and watch it. You won't be disappointed. If you love music, if you're a Beatles fan, you got to go and watch this. Rock Professor.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's fascinating. Shall I say it? Say cheers to everyone in the chat. So we've got Keith and Helen and Will Varela and Leo Safko. Thanks, Leo, for joining. Good to see you. Robot Master Switch, Ellen, and Helena, Christine. Hi, Christine. Didn't see you earlier. Apologies. Of course, Nelson Rodriguez and John ZD 351. Keith Campbell, Johnny Heartbreaker. Hey, Johnny. Good to see you. Hoba Rody and 7/8. Jay, Johnny Bean, stopping by. Teresa. Get well soon, Teresa. Kenneth K. And Crappy Luxury. PP Burns. Thanks, PP, for joining. Renus Pinkle. Even Renus. And Phil S. Norwich Guitar. Hi, Phil. Fellow UK man. Good work. So that's probably everyone who commented. Got back to Johnny Beaker. So thanks all for joining. Good to see you. And we'll be back next week for a more Beatles chat.
Awesome. Jimmy Ray, thank you for joining us.
Just got to say, like, if you're not a massive Beatles fan, if you're a music fan, you need to see this. I'm sure there'll be nuggets in there that you got to take away. And if you're a songwriter, you definitely need to watch this because it's to watch these, what I call geniuses writing, the way they write, the way they don't even have words. They're going with melody lines, which is, I'm a song guy and I love hearing great melodies. And this is the beautiful thing about the Beatles. They wrote words to suit the melody a lot of the time. And you need to watch this. I'm going to go back and watch the whole thing a little bit more intently instead of, it was like I needed to see it all because it was like, I haven't seen this. I need to see this. And there's so much of, you're talking like over 8 hours of, or 6-7 hours of material there. You can't absorb it all at once. So subscribe, go watch it. And we're gonna hit the marks a little bit harder next Sunday.
Oh, look, I agree with you. I agree. I made no written notes. All the notes, everything that we discussed today was all in my head, guys, because I just couldn't write notes when I was watching it. So, look, I agree with you. And again, I don't want to drag the show on, but Brad's hit the nail on the head. So they haven't even got the lyrics for a lot of these tunes that we know because they're going, they're just, scatting to, a lot of these melodies. Let It Be, for example. And oh gosh, I forget, half the songs on the album. Do you notice also that John Lennon's also singing the early version of Jealous Guy too?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that they get Mal Evans to write out the lyrics. Mal, write the lyrics out. So he's there with a pad, like writing them out.
But aren't they good? You know, Mal doesn't intrude or anything. You know, that ginger boy, God bless that ginger boy, because he brings them cups of teas all the time and he gets their ciggies and he asks what they want for lunch and that their toast. Have their toast there. They got their little trays of toast. It's great. Oh,
tea and toast. We're so British, you know.
Oh.
Tea, toast, and ciggy.
Oh, my Lord. Should we do another hour and a half, eh? We got to go. We're going to split. Thank you, guys.
Oh, that's cool.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to go and watch it again as well because I watched it and made notes. And then I sort of, you watch it with a different kind of thing. I want to watch it without making notes in a sense.
Well, I tried to make notes.
Conscientious.
From the very start, I tried to make notes and I found myself having to always rewind because I was missing parts. And I went, I'm not going to write notes this one. I'm just going to wing it. So
you did
I've
well,
made
brother.
notes on all three.
You did well.
The professor, as you would expect, the rock professor has done his homework and has written notes, copious note, lecture.
Keep them. Keep them for next week.
Yeah. That was fine. Don't worry, I got them on my Google Docs in the cloud. They're all there, ready and waiting to go.
Good
awesome.
Stuff.
Awesome. Leo's joined us. Has Leo been here or not? Or
Safco.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Leo. If you've always been here, nice to see you. We always bang into each other. Guys, please share our channel. I'm asking you humbly on behalf of my co-hosts and I. We're up to 785. We would love to have 800. We would love to have 100 by Christmas. If you can help us, yeah, we'll be grateful. We're out of here.
Cool.
Peace. In the words.
Take care, guys. See you next week. Peace.
Where's this video? There it is there.
Don't know how to end it.
I hope you've got something to show on the side of the end video, because you can't let us down, Rock Professor, because normally Brad's up there. He's always got something to show. You ready? You got something?
God. Okay.